Tarkanian, and he joins us. Good morning, Danny.
Good morning, Kevin. This was not my idea. Let's make that very, very clear. This was not only a request, but it was pretty much, let's just put it this way, it was a very strong and passionate request by President Trump for me to not file in the Senate seat, which allows Dean Heller to keep all of his money and not get beat up in the primary, and for me to run a very important congressional district that they believe could make the difference of whether we maintain control of the House or not. The president actually, I'll give you the little background. About 2.5 weeks ago, I'm making fundraising calls, and I let another call go by that I don't recognize the number. And I checked my voice messages afterwards, and somebody says, "The President Trump would like to speak with you. Would you please call back at such and such?" And I go,
"Wow!"
I still got the recording actually. So I thought I thought maybe that someone was playing a prank on me. So I called back, and they said, "Yes." I said, "This is Danny Tarkanian. I heard the president wants to speak with me." And she answered the phone, the president's office. So I thought maybe it was true. And anyway, she said, "The president's in a meeting. He wants to speak with you, and he'll call you back." And I didn't hear back from him. Actually, after hours, I had my wife call just to see if they still weren't pulling a fast one on us to make sure the recording, when nobody answered, said the president's office, and it was. Then I found out later it was the president's scheduler. He doesn't do any phone calls without her scheduling them. So I hadn't heard from him. I thought he was actually going to call me and thank me for getting Dean Heller to finally support him. And I was going to get a pat on the back from the president for doing that. But I didn't hear back from him. And then we announced I was going to file for the Senate seat at 3:30 on Thursday. I was in Reno on Wednesday. And so on my way, I'm at the airport, and I get a call from his new campaign manager. His name is Brad. And he said, "I just got off the phone with President Trump. He's on Air Force One, and he just wanted me to convey to you his desire that you do not run for the Senate seat and instead run in the congressional district. It would clear the path for both you two, or at least make it easier for us to win the Senate and this very important congressional district." For over an hour, I argued with him. And
you gave him the reasons why not to do this.
Absolutely. The very passionate reasons that I still strongly believe. I told him I don't think he understands the landscape here in Nevada, how people are not real happy with Senator Heller. And I argued and said, he doesn't understand this and that. I got to give Brad credit, because most people probably would have hung up and not given me the time that he did. But we talked before I got on the plane, and then he said, "Well, call me back so we can finish this once you get off the plane," because we weren't done when we boarded. So when I got off, he just said, "Look, I talked with the president again. I explained to him some of your reasoning, but he's affirmed that he wants this to happen." And so I went home. I was extremely disappointed. I talked with my wife, talked with my mother. The next day I talked with my campaign staff. I explained what happened. And every single one of them said, "You got to do what the president said." They felt that for me to, the premise of me running for this race, as you know, Kevin, I was going to run in the Congressional District 3 seat all along. And then I got recruited by people that supported President Trump here in Nevada to run against Heller after the health care vote. And the reasoning was they wanted a senator in Washington, D.C. who supported the president. And they felt I would, and Heller wasn't. So how do I argue then that I should continue to run in this race when I'm in the race just because I support the president, and now the president asked me to do something? I said, "I'm not going to support you on it because it's not in favor of me." You really can't. It took away any reasoning for me to be in the race. And furthermore, I know people say you just can't listen to whatever the president says, but he's not just the president of the United States. He's the leader of our party, the Republican Party. And I've been in sports my whole life. And I understand that when the coach or the leader of your team says, "Hey, we need you to do this and take one for the team," you may not like it, you may not agree with it, but you need to do it. He's the one who makes those decisions. He felt this was, and this is what caught me, really made an impact to me, was he said this is necessary to help him get his America First agenda passed. And I believe that with every ounce of my body that our country needs to get his America First agenda passed for the betterment of our children and the future of our country.
That is Danny Tarkanian joining us in studio. Friday on the show, you announced at mid-morning a press release came out, and it said you were going to run for CD3. I had a number of people call the show, go on the air. One said he had volunteered for you, but he would never do it again. I had others like Rico Waller up in Dry Supply in Carson City, who's a regular on the program. I said, hey, you want your money back? I know you donated because I saw you sign the check and hand it to Danny Tarkanian. And he says, no, heck no. No, whatever Danny wants to do, I'm in his corner. You got a mixed bag here. What do you say? And is there anything you can do to make these people that had their nose bent out of joint a little bit feel better about the move?
Look, I was very upset about it, and it's taken me several days, and it hurts me. You know, I've never backed down from a challenge in my life. I've had great pride that I have, and I've taken my lumps. I got my head kicked in, but I've never backed down from a challenge in my life, and I never intentionally let people down that have supported me. And I know there's a lot of people out there that wanted Dean Heller removed from office, and they were counting on me to do that. I understand all that, but when you run for public office, you're not running for what's in your best interest. You're running for what's in the best interest of the people you represent in our country. And although there's a lot of people that wanted Dean Heller gone, the President of the United States has asked you to get his America First agenda passed, which is the most important thing for our country. And he felt it was necessary for me to do this. This is not what was in my best interest. I believe very strongly I would have beat Senator Heller in the primary, and I'm sure he feels otherwise. But we hadn't even started our paid media, and he and his super PACs have spent millions of dollars against me. I believe very strongly we had the message that would have won this race. But again, it wasn't about me. It's the President of the United States and the leader of the Republican Party says we need to get this done for me to get the America First agenda passed. And for me to say no to him would have been hypocritical to me.
I know that you are saving Dean Heller millions of dollars. He probably would have spent a couple of $1 million against you.
President Trump is doing that, not me.
Okay, but the fact is that he's being saved a lot of money. Are you disappointed that in his initial release that Heller didn't say something like, hey, I want to thank Danny Tarkanian. He's a good guy. This will give us all a better chance to control these seats. But he didn't mention you at all. Were you a little disappointed?
Dean Heller's not going to disappoint me. He's not going to disappoint me. I think that President Trump did him a very big favor. Look, I can go into Dean Heller's eyes. He's going to think, hey, I was going to beat Danny anyways. He thinks that, and I think the opposite. He's going to say, actually, the president did Danny a favor because I would have beat him. Now, this could be in his eyes. I, for one, being involved in sports again and understanding, my dad used to say, you win with class, lose with dignity. I would have probably mentioned my opponent and tried to be as classy as I could about it. But it doesn't bother me if Dean says something about me or not. It's painful enough what happened, and I got to accept it and move forward and win this very important congressional District 3 seat. And that's where my focus is going to be.
Am I right? There's polling out even as we speak.
The only poll I know is one that Victoria Seaman did on Monday, and I don't know the results of it, but it was a push poll against me where they asked the same despicable, lying, character assassination statements that Dean Heller and Mitch McConnell's super PACs had used against me, the three attacks they've been using. And that was done Monday. I had two people call and tell me about it. I don't know what the results are, but I assume if it was good for Victoria, she'd release it.
More coming up with Danny Tarkanian. We're talking about what happened that caused him to move from the Senate race to the CD3 race. He's given us the broad strokes of that. There are some people unhappy. Victoria Seaman is one of them. And other candidates in that CD3 race. This has turned the thing upside down. What is Danny Tarkanian's answer to that? We'll get to that and more coming up. My name is Kevin Wall. Good to have you with us. It's Wednesday. It is Hump Day. It is live. And joining us on Live and Local now. I've been saying all along about this CD3 race, there are a lot of very talented, passionate people in this CD3 race. People that are have different skill sets. But collectively, it's a really good group. Last Friday, you kind of threw a hand grenade in this thing and turned the thing upside down, or the president did. Let's say the president did. But there are some people I can understand that might feel a little hurt by this. In particular, one candidate who happens to be a friend of you and Amy, and that's Victoria Seaman. How do you begin mending fences with people like Victoria?
As we were discussing off the air, I didn't know for sure that I would file for the CD3 race until the president made the public request. And as soon as I saw that go out, I called Victoria as soon as it came out. And I tried to explain to her why I am having to do what I have to do, and she wasn't happy and hung up on me, and I certainly understand that. I could understand her anger. I wasn't happy. I was angry, but it's something that had to be done, I believe, for the best interest of our country, and certainly the Republican Party, according to what the president felt. And I tried to explain that to her. Now, then I left her a message on the phone later that day. Again, she didn't answer, so I left her a message again, trying to explain, why I had to do this. My understanding is still not happy with me, so I just, let it go until I see her again.
Do you think with time she'll have a better understanding, or at least be able to accept it?
That's something you would probably have to ask her. I would hope so. I'm not going to speak for her. So,
okay, going forward then. You've got this big field. What that tells me is you probably don't have to have that big a percentage to win the nomination. What's the pathway to victory as you see it?
Look, the White House was not happy with the field right now because they were recruiting a guy named Munoz.
Charles Munoz, former campaign manager here in Nevada for the Trump campaign.
And Arizona, who's now working for President Trump in one of his administration's departments in the administration. And they were trying to get him to come back to Las Vegas and file for it. In fact, Victoria knows that. It was told to both of us, a week or two ago. So the president and the White House felt that they wanted either Charles in the race, and when that didn't happen, they asked me to do so because they feel this is a very important seat, and they felt that I would have the best chance to turn this back to the Republican side and possibly save the majority in Congress. And that's what my focus is going to be on right now. I am going to do everything I can to make sure that we turn the seat back to the GOP.
Let me ask you, because this is money obviously is a big factor in who wins an election. You've got, $500,000 in the bank right now or close to it?
Oh, we have more than that. But again, I was running in a Senate seat, and that's a pittance compared to what Heller had. But for a congressional seat, it's quite substantial.
And how does it compare with other candidates in the CD3 race?
Well, we'll find out. The reporting period's at the end of this month, and everybody will have to report. At the end of this last quarter, Victoria had $120,000 in the bank, and the other candidates had less than $100,000.
Let me ask you, the Senate Intelligence Committee yesterday announced that a portion of its investigation was over, that the Russians did try to hack into our sites. They did not change one vote in the 2016 election. And I want to ask you, do you worry? I mean, they're having a session today, the Senate Intelligence Committee, with stakeholders. Do you worry about the integrity of the vote come June or November?
I don't understand. Well, first of all, if they're hacking into our system and changing votes, heck yes. And I think anybody who understands the electronic systems are concerned about somebody being able to get in and hack that. Absolutely. But if you're talking about going on Facebook and spending, less than $100,000 trying to persuade people to vote for Trump instead of Clinton, that's laughable. The bigger collusion with the Russians is what Hillary was doing with the dossier and getting the president of the White House at the time to get FISA courts to wiretap Trump personnel. That's a bigger thing. I'm not worried about Russia getting into our social media and somehow, what is it, brainwashing the voters to vote a certain way? I would think that most people would laugh at that suggestion. But don't forget now, President Obama spent a lot of money trying to get the prime minister out in Israel. If you remember that day, we're having a big feud, and he spent a lot of money trying to get him defeated. So, I mean, it's funny that we do stuff like that, and I guess it doesn't matter. But when Russia spends what was it, less than $1 million or something like that on Facebook, and all of a sudden
that doesn't get you very far nationally.
It hasn't got. I mean, that was less than probably Dean Heller and Mitch McConnell spent against me.
Well, and you consider even spending $1.2 billion against Donald Trump, which is what Hillary Clinton spent. It didn't do her much good either.
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything there. From what they've made public, it's, again, laughable to suggest that it had any influence on any voters.
Okay, when the president says he has you have his full support and his endorsement, what does that mean? Will he come out here for you during the primary? Will he do robocalls? Will he? What exactly does that mean?
I don't really know because we didn't get that far into it. As I mentioned, Kevin, this all happened within a 30-hour period.
Can you stick around?
Oh, absolutely.
Danny Tarkanian in the house. Where we're going to talk about the road ahead in CD3. Will there be debates? And is there an opportunity out there maybe to mend some fences? House blockbuster move on Friday, jumping from the U.S. Senate race to the CD3 race. A lot of very talented, good people. Some of them are your friends, and there's going to be some sorting out that gets done, I guess. I want to ask you though, looking to November. Are the Democrats pretty much clearing the field for Susie Lee, who's, by the way, a big fundraiser? I don't know what else she's done. I don't know what her claim to fame is. Maybe you know. Well,
her husband used to be one of the owners of the Mandalay Bay group, and they have a lot of private money, and she's self-funded part of her campaign last election when she ran in CD4. She came in third place in the CD4 race, and the Democrats then recruited her to go run in this seat. So, again, I'm not, I don't know where they'll be. I know they're helping her raise a lot of money. She's got $600,000 cash on hand after 2 quarters, and none of it's her own money. So she starts with a very big lead. There's a lot of Democrats in the race, but none of them that will be able to make any inroads because they won't have the financial resources or name ID. So Susie will win going away, and she'll have a large bank of money to start off with. And that's a big advantage. That's one of the things that hurt me in my last race in 2016, I had to spend all the money I had and money that I lent my campaign to beat Michael Roberson, and then I had to withstand $3.2 million in these attack ads against me too. And then I go into the general election, and Jackie Rosen had all of her money and wasn't touched, and it was a big advantage for her. And again, we lost by 1%. The closest race Nevada had with the GOP leadership disavowing Trump. Now, instead of that, we're in a non-presidential year where Republicans do better. We have the President of the United States endorsing and supporting me. But more important than that, we have the success of his policies that are affecting all of Nevadans in their pocketbook, in their security, either money getting back from the tax rebate like they did at the Michael Gaughan's casino, or the fact that the stock market's skyrocketing. All those things are things that are going to make people say, let's vote for someone who supports these America First policies. And I think it is going to be a really good year for Republicans, particularly ones that support those policies. I know Democrats have talked about the possibility of making the 2018 midterms a referendum on impeachment. This could be a real dangerous thing. You embrace the president, and then all of a sudden you've got Democrats coming at you and making this a referendum on impeachment. Do you worry about that at all? Impeachment for what? I don't know. That's the first question you should ask the Democrats. Look, Bill Clinton lied under oath about a sexual affair, and American people didn't think that was important, and turned on the Republicans for actually impeaching him. He didn't get convicted for impeachment, but he was impeached. That turned on the Republicans, and we lost a lot of seats because of that. If the Democrats try to do this with nothing out there against President Trump, it'll blow up in their face. What they're going to do is they're going to use some of Trump's statements and words and some of his personal actions, and they're going to try to make people hate the president so much that anybody who supports the president's policies, they're going to want them to vote against. I believe people are going to look past personal statements that are made and look to what the policies are doing for our country. And we can rattle them off. Lowest unemployment rate in 17 years. The lowest unemployment rate since they've kept track for blacks and Hispanics. Highest consumer confidence in over 20 years. Border crossings are down. Manufacturing is coming back to the United States, and we're going to turn around some of these bad trade deals and bring more jobs here to the United States. People will. Anybody who's looking impartially at this has to be happy with what President Trump's policies are doing for our country, and I believe that's what they're going to decide when they vote.
Do you think the American people are ignoring? I know I do. All this tabloid stuff, Playboy Playmates, porn stars.
Again, all personal stuff.
All personal. There's no collusion. There's no Russian collusion with Donald Trump. At least the House Intelligence Committee said that.
Well, even with Mueller now, they're past the collusion. They're saying, oh, well, there might be obstruction of justice. Well, what justice did he obstruct if there was no collusion? I mean, what, he got rid of Comey because he was worried Comey was going to do what if there was no collusion? I mean, it doesn't. There's no basis for it. Look, you go back and just look at history. You see how the American people have reacted. Bill Clinton had an affair with an intern in the White House, and they still supported President Trump. And you're going to say because Donald Trump may or may not have had an affair with a porn star, they're going to vote against him? When the stock market's at new highs, the unemployment rate is at historic lows. There's no way that's going to happen.
Let me just throw something out there. You've got a lot of money in the bank. You've got a large field. Is there a path to victory here? Is it 20%, 25%? I mean, is there a target number in a big field that you think can win?
I got a great chance to win this general election. As I mentioned before, I lost by 1% in the closest race any GOP person had in Nevada the last election. It was the most expensive race ever, and we had the top of the entire GOP coming out against our nominee, which depressed the ticket. You look at it now, and it was a presidential year where Democrats turn out more. All I got to do is make up 1% and I win this general election. Are you asking me, do I think I'm going to win the primary? Yes, I feel very confident I'll win the primary. I won a primary last election against a majority leader in the state Senate who outspent me 4-1. Also on that ballot was a very good candidate from NPRI who's now working for Attorney General Laxalt and City Councilwoman.
Andy Matthews, by the way.
Andy Matthews and City Councilwoman Michelle Fiore. They were all on. Those are all very good candidates. And I won that and I was significantly outspent. I'm going to do my best to get through the primary, and I feel confident we will. And then the more important thing is, let's win the general election. This seat one could determine who controls Congress for the Republican Party. It's very, very important, as President Trump felt. And I have a great opportunity to win this general election. I explained why. Again, non-presidential election, Republicans normally come out more. We're going to have the president of the White House fully engaged and supportive of me. I'm going to be able to run on his policies and what it's doing for the betterment of our country and the future for our kids. I'm going to run against somebody who's very much like Jackie Rose, and she hasn't been in office before. She's going to be well-funded. I'm sure they're going to resort to the same thing the establishment does, deceitful lying ads. We know what they're going to say, and we're going to do a better job responding to them. And I feel very confident we're going to win in November.
I know you're going to be busy over the next few months, but if you can come in, we'd love to have you. And I know you're going to be traveling, and you're going to be, out speaking to groups. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I know we'll talk again. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Danny Tarkanian in the house. He is running in CD3. We will be visiting later with Victoria Seaman. She called, wanted to respond. We're going to give her a chance to respond. We'll do that coming up live and local now.